The idea of value is something that is integral to human society. You'll understand it when you go into the business world, or if you're doing any sort of job, or if you have any sort of relationship with another person. Every single one of these scenarios involves some level of value adding or value exchange, whether it is exchanging resources or it is exchanging labor, whatever it is. Every single settlement of humanity throughout all of history relied on the clan, and it relied on people adding value to each other, and the person who can give the most value within a tribe was the one who is regarded as the most valuable. In fact, there is actually a tribe and nation called the Haida on an island called Haida Gwaii, made up of many hundreds of little islands right next to Alaska and right next to Canada, actually owned by Canada, where historically the chief would throw a potluck where he would bring a lot of food and a lot of resources from his hunting expeditions or from his larder, and he would share it with the community. And upon each person's death, on their totem, on their tombstone, it would talk about how many potlucks they've thrown in their life. And it was always like this in prehistoric societies. The person who can provide the most for the group was the leader. When you think about it like this, the tribesmen of the pagan Norse or Germanic people before they were Christianized, for them a leader was somebody who serves the community, right? Somebody who gives back, somebody who is a servant. That is what a leader is. That is what a chief is usually. And with Christianization, it was very easy to convince the leaders to become Christian, because in Christianity, the leader, he is sent from God himself, and he must be worshipped, and he must have all the wealth, and he is a representation of God on earth. And so they were told this, they were like, you'll become much more powerful, you become aligned with us. And they all gave up their ancient culture, gave up their ancient religion. And so when you really think about it in its most basic form, to be a valuable person, you must give people value. You must be able to provide value for others. Now, what is value? Value in and of itself is a very complex and subjective term. Value is merely based on the actual person for whom it is valuable for, right? For example, a Wagyu steak for a meat lover, a foodie connoisseur, a Wagyu steak would be highly valuable, highly sought after, but to a vegetarian, it is completely worthless. A 18th century beautifully made oak armoire or wardrobe is worth 10 to 20,000 for an antique dealer or people at an antiques auction, but to somebody who owns it and thinks of it as just old wooden furniture and throws it away to the dump, it's worthless. And so really it boils down to what is valuable to the other person. Now, if you want to become a valuable person, you must always be adding value to people around you. Whatever your skill set, whatever your means or your resources, you should be aiming to give more to people than you ever take. Because in these societies, in our mind, the person who takes and never gives is at the lowest rung of society, whereas a person who gives and rarely takes is somebody who is regarded as highly valuable. Now, what else can come into value? So a big part of it is having the skills or character traits or resources that are tied in with supply and demand. Supply and demand is a very basic economic concept. I'm sure you've heard about it all before. Merely it states that as the demand for something rises and their supply for it goes down, we can see a value increase, we can see a price increase, or what other people regard as valuable. And so think about it, if you're somebody in a world like today who has an AI degree and you have a degree in machine learning, hardly anybody has any of those degrees, and we're having a huge demand. Things are coming out like ChatGPT, and if you have that skill set, if you know how to live in that world, you are valuable to that world. You're valuable to businesses. You're valuable to people. You can get jobs easier, right? You become valuable. It's the same thing as, chivalry is dead. And say you chivalrous to a woman, right? Say you take a quality woman out on a date, you open the door for her, right? Like, it seems like simpish behavior, but it's only simpish if you don't want to do that. If that's not part of who you are and you're only doing it to impress the girl, then it's simpish. But me, I take my girl out, I open the door for her because I enjoy being that provider. I enjoy being that protector. I enjoy her being a little princess and me doing acts of service to her like that. I get a kick out of it. You know, it's very much in line with who I am. And say you do that for a girl and no other guy has ever done it, you suddenly become valuable because of this scarcity, and there is a demand but no supply of chivalry. Is the exact same thing. Say you are mysterious and you don't talk about yourself to the girl, you just let her talk about herself. Say you don't try to have sex with her, you're not desperate, you're not giving off this energy. In fact, when she makes a move on you, you push her away a little bit. That is in such short supply in this pornographic riddled world where men are so desperate for women's validation and sex with women and to talk about themselves, that if you just act like that to a woman, you instantly become a high value man. Instantly, when you're not attached to the outcome, because so many men are. The supply is not there, the demand is high. So really think about it like that. Think about it, what can you provide for other people that they cannot get elsewhere? Maybe you have skills in web design, maybe you have a network of people that you can connect others together, maybe you're great at cooking and you just bring in home cooked meals for people to build that relationship. You need to remember that if you want a strong relationship with somebody, it comes from giving them value. Even just letting somebody talk to you or tell you their problems or tell you about themselves, that is a value add. That is valuable, because more often than not, people will talk about themselves. And so you suddenly become that small 1% of people that don't and ask questions. And so just be valuable to people. Now, the more you serve your community, the more you are given back to your community, eventually there will come a moment where you have to take. And maybe, you know, after giving 95%, and then you take that 5%. And say you take that 5% from every single person you have helped over the years at the same time, and these people, your network, they elevate you now higher. You are now becoming a much more valuable person. That is how you start big projects. That is how you get investment from your friends and family, is by being that person who first gives and adds value. Always be trying to add value. Make it such a habit that it isn't something you even do consciously. It's just who you are, because there is a fact of karma, or whatever you want to call it, some sort of universal law that when you give without expecting anything in return, when you are literally giving selflessly, and like it has to be selfless in your mind, you have to expect nothing in return. When you do that, you become a channel for the divine to give into this world, to give into this dream state, into this simulation, to channel resources and power and luck and opportunities. And so when you become that vessel, that selfless giver, you are elevated. Naturally, the world around you builds around you, and people flock to you, and people want to be around you, and people want to help you grow. And so it's very, very important that you become the person who is consistently adding value. And thinking about it, you know, how can you add value? You know, maybe you have a great sense of humor, maybe you have a great contact list, maybe you can just make a cup of tea for somebody who came to your house, maybe you can cook a meal, maybe you can invite somebody over to hang out with you, maybe you can organize a group event. Maybe if you want that promotion at work, what you're going to have to do is start a project and expect nothing in return. Work at the project, organize events, give value to the company, and then when a promotion comes along, all of that added value will get paid out, because there will be no doubt who will be the most valuable member of the team for that position. Same thing with, say you want to get yourself a mentor. That comes from finding somebody you want to be taught by, somebody who can mentor you in the things that you wish to learn, and then giving them value. Think about the old metaphor of the archetypal, the young hero finding a wizard elder who will teach them to level up, the coach that will help them become their next iteration of themselves. What happens first? The apprentice first gives value. The apprentice first trades his labor. He trades his time, his resources, and gives until one day he is able to take something far more valuable. So it is through this act of giving that you will become irresistible to others and a high value man.